Hi, this is Michelle on the Catholic Family Podcast, and I am joined today by Cara. I'm sorry, is it
Yeah,
Cara?
it's Cara.
Cara, okay. Cara Dobbs, and she is going to be giving us her story and some thoughts on motherhood and homemaking and just some good Catholic mother stuff. Yeah, we're gonna just get started and get right into it. Can you tell me a little bit about yourself, I'm just gonna keep messing that up. Cara.
That is okay. People do that all the
Okay.
time.
Awesome. So yeah, if you could just give me a little bit about yourself and kind of your
Mhm.
journey into Catholicism and just how you ended up where you are now.
Yeah, definitely. So I grew up cradle Catholic, but in the Novus Ordo, which, is pretty much
Right.
completely different from traditional Catholic faith. And it was a pretty stereotypical Novus Ordo upbringing. Um, we went to kind of like your poster board Novus Ordo church. It was very 70s. There's like, wood paneling everywhere, guitar folk group. Um, you know, it was just, yeah, one of those types of churches. And we went to Catholic schools growing up, diocesan schools. And then for high school, we went to a conservative Novus Ordo school, which was better than some of the other ones going around. But I mean, it was still Novus Ordo. But it was there where I was first kind of exposed to the traditional side of things. So it was actually at this high school where I went to my, what I thought was the first traditional Latin mass. And it was also at this high school where I first kind of was exposed to traditional sacred music. And that was one of the things that kind of drove me into like traditional Catholic faith. I love traditional sacred music, and I have for a long time. So that was kind of like a segue. So
So
that's kind of a
could I
very,
interrupt you really quick?
oh yeah,
I'm just curious, are you talking about like mostly Gregorian chant, like or like hymns or
mm-hmm.
kind of just everything?
Pretty much everything. So we would sing chant, we would do hymns. I really loved polyphony. I got involved in a lot of different choirs. There was a few different choirs at the high school, and then one of my teachers was like, you have a pretty good voice. You should try this other choir. It was called the Diocesan Festival Choir, which sounds fancy, but it was the choir that would sing for all of the bishops, like important masses.
Right. Air
So,
quotes.
right. So all of those types of things, which was really cool, just because I was able to sing really beautiful pieces and get some really great training. So I hope someday when my children are older that I can join a choir again for our chapel, because I love singing and haven't been able to do it for a while. But it's hard when you have young children because
Right. That's so
you
true.
are not available to sing.
Yes, it's hard. That's one thing I miss a lot because I was in the choir, I don't know, probably high school up
Mm-hmm.
until we had kids. And
Mm-hmm.
I still kind of like, I mean, I sing with my kids and we listen to like really beautiful music, but I miss being in the choir because that's just so special. And I'm like
Right.
you, I'm like eventually I want to get back to that and be in it
Mm-hmm.
again, but it is hard when you have kids.
Mm-hmm. It really is. Yeah. Um, yeah. So that was kind of how I sort of touched my toes, if you will, like into the whole kind of traditional side of the faith. And then after high school, I went to Franciscan University of Steubenville, which I don't know if you've heard of that. It's pretty big in the Novus Ordo world for colleges. Um, like it's probably one of the bigger ones that most Novus Ordo people will want to go to or they've heard of, and but it is known for being super charismatic.
No, like
Like
flashing Gacky.
very, oh yeah, oh yeah.
Gotcha.
It's jokingly referred to as the Catholic Disneyland.
Oh my
It's just
goodness.
like,
That
it's
sounds
ridiculous.
kind of terrible, actually.
It really is. It really is. Which is, it's so interesting because as like a Novus Ordo person, you're like, oh, that sounds amazing.
Right?
Yeah, like let's
Right?
go there. But being traditional Catholic, like, oh my gosh, like that sounds horrible. And it was.
Right? Yeah.
Looking back now, it's like, oh my goodness,
Right. No,
what
all
was
that
going
feel
on?
good stuff. I mean, I bet it
Mm-mm,
sounds great at first, but it's just,
mm-hmm.
yeah, not like the traditional faith.
No.
I mean, that side of it. I mean, we're joyful and happy, but not in that showy,
Mm-mm.
flashy, gacky way.
Right. Right. Exactly. Yeah. And so I got into that whole charismatic movement a little bit when I was at college there. But it just never really sat right with me. And I had friends who were saying, like, oh, come to this praise and worship event or come to this adoration, these different things. And I went for a little bit, but then I just stopped because it just didn't sit right. And it was that flashy, like basically like a rock concert.
Oh,
like,
yikes.
like that type of just, yeah, I don't know, hands in the air, that type of thing.
Turn to your neighbor and
Right.
yeah. Yeah.
Right. Right. Yeah. So that was my college time. But funnily enough, it was at this very Novus Ordo school where I met my now husband,
Oh,
which was funny. So we had a mutual friend group, and we found out that we were both from New Hampshire. We were like, oh my gosh. So then we just became friends while we were at college. And then he moved back to New Hampshire to work as a teacher. And after I graduated, I moved back home as well. And we ended up starting to work at the same high school, which was the high school that I went to. And shortly after starting working there together, we started dating. And then soon after that, we were engaged. Um, I'm cutting the story down like super short. So that's kind
gotcha.
of like a really sped up version.
That's okay.
Um, yeah,
You're hitting the
but
big important things.
right,
That's
right. But it was during our engagement that we started going to a diocesan Latin mass. So the FSSP. That's where we started going
okay.
while we were engaged. And which, I mean, I think a lot of people kind of have that segue, or a lot of Novus Ordo people will have that segue,
Mhm.
um, like from Novus Ordo all the way to the traditional Catholic faith. Um, and we were going there for about a year, and then COVID hit. So obviously, when that happened, you know, no masses or anything. But it was, funnily enough, during that time, it was kind of like a chain reaction of things that happened. There was like Pachamama, which, a lot of red flags were kind of going up for my husband and I. And so that happened, and then COVID, and there was just a lot of other things that happened, which would be like way too long to get into. But it eventually led us to researching citizencontism. And my husband reached out to a CMRI priest, and he responded almost immediately, like in an
Wow.
email.
That's awesome.
And it was, I remember too, it was late at night. We were at my parents' house, and he sent this email. I think it was like 9 or 10 at night. And he responded right away. We're like, wow, that was, you know, funny coincidence. That was good.
Right. That's
And it just happened that there's a CMRI chapel a half hour away from where we were living. I was at my parents' house, and he had an apartment. And um, so we're like, wow, this is, because when we made the realization of like, oh my gosh, I think, we were in the wrong church, like it was a really big pill to swallow. It was really difficult. And, um, you know, I remembered we were at, I remember because we were engaged, so we were at my parents' kitchen table trying to do wedding planning. And I think I was trying to, figure out some plan of like which choir we were going to have for this big wedding that we were planning. And my husband's just like, we need to talk about something. I don't think we can get married in this church. I was like,
Wow.
and then he was like, I really think that I don't think the Pope is the true Pope. And he's like, I think all these things. And I kind of like knew it was coming because we'd been having conversations. And I remember saying, like, I feel like I'm gonna throw up because it's like when you realize the gravity of it too, like, oh my gosh, like we were wrong.
Mhm.
So that was a really big pill to swallow. And it's like, okay, now what? Where do we
Right.
go?
Right.
Because there's Novus Ordo parishes here, there, everywhere. But where are we going to go to find the true mass? By the grace of God, there was one close to us,
Wow.
which is such a blessing because I know there's a lot of people who don't have it. I mean, we still, where we are now, we're about an hour away from it, but that's still better than I know a lot of other people. They don't have really access at all or
Right.
very often. Um, so yeah, so that's how we kind of made our way to the traditional faith. And there's a lot of other drama that happened kind of in that time period because, um, our families did not agree with us. Both of our families, because he also grew up Novus Ordo, um, and they both thought we were crazy. And yeah, that's a long, a long
Oh
story
my
that I,
goodness.
I won't go too
That's
much
so hard.
into, but we it was hard, but we were able to convince our families to basically be okay with us getting married in the traditional Catholic faith. So praise God, we were married at our chapel, which was great. But there was a lot of suffering in that time period, just because of the relationships with family members and, like having to give up the big wedding that I thought we were going to be having,
Mhm.
and making it just a small little one with not much family. And, but it was so beautiful at the same time and so meaningful. And, yeah.
What a blessing that you were able to find the truth before you got married and that you
Uh,
like, went through that together. Cause yeah, I
mm-hmm,
couldn't imagine if it was, I just feel like it would be so hard, like, going further and not finding it until after you were married.
mm-hmm,
I'm
mm-hmm,
sure you had a lot of difficulties and struggles, but it's awesome that you were able to work through it together and like
mm-hmm,
go through all of that. And I bet it made your
mm-hmm,
relationship stronger, I would imagine.
mm-hmm. Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. Because it was definitely one of those trying times where, you're really put to, I don't know, I'm trying to think of like the right example to give, but it's like you have to make this decision, like what are you going to choose? Are you going to choose the easy route of just, staying in your nice little recognize and resist area where all your family's happy and everyone's happy, but like there's there's some really concerning things going on, or are you going to choose like the hard route of the truth? You know what
Right.
I mean?
Right.
And it was so good to have him there with me. We're doing this together, making this decision. Um, it really started off our marriage very strong, hard, very hard,
Mhm. Right.
but very strong.
Yeah, no, I could see that. So are
Mm-hmm.
is your family still like on the Novus Ordo side, or have they started to like
Mm-hmm.
follow you over at all, or not yet?
Yeah, they are still very Novus Ordo. And it's very funny because when we were right before we became traditional, we were trying to get them to come with us. So like going to the FSSP masses. And I remember even with that, my mom specifically had a really hard time with it because I asked like, oh, what did you think? I think it was just a low mass or something, and she just didn't like it, which was shocking to me because I don't know, it was just shocking. I just feel like there's so much beauty in the Latin mass, and
Mhm.
I think for her, really for both of my parents, it's just so different because that
Right.
whole generation, that's what they grew up with, you know.
Mhm.
Like they're right at that age where, you know, it was their parents who experienced the change, not them. They only grew up with that, so they don't know anything different. So I think it was just that. And then after going through all of the just struggles and disagreements, of wow, when we were becoming traditional Catholic, I pray for them every day because I hope that it didn't put like a sour taste in their mouth. And I think
Right.
now that it's been 3+ years of this, I think they're starting to see like, okay, we're not these crazy people, we are Catholic,
Right. And you're
through
stuck
and
with it,
through.
obviously. And it's like, it's not just a phase or whatever. It's like you're in it for the long haul.
Right,
Hmm.
right,
Well,
right.
I feel like it is crazy, like how the Novus Ordo and traditional Catholics are, it's a completely different religion.
It
It
is.
blows my mind that they call themselves Catholics because it's like,
Mm-hmm.
if you only knew, it's so different. It's so,
Mm-hmm.
so different. It's not even like the same world.
No.
It's crazy. And I've never, been to Novus Ordo, but I've been to like weddings and stuff. And
Mm-hmm.
it's just crazy the difference. I'm like, how can you even think it's the same? I don't know.
I know. It really is. Now being on this side of everything, like looking back at my life, it's like, how did I think that was okay? Like, how did I think
Right.
that I was being a good Catholic doing all of these different things? And that's kind of like one of the things that I was thinking, that I wanted to bring up for other women who might kind of be in my similar shoes or going from Novus Ordo or something else to traditional faith and trying to figure things out is it's a completely different religion, really. So there's a lot
Mhm.
of learning. There's obviously all of the theology learning that goes into making this decision, but then after that, there's still so much uh, that you need to learn.
Right.
That's different. And I
Right.
think like one of the most tangible things for me was dress and modesty. Because in the Novus Ordo world, there really is no standards,
Right.
at least for us growing up. And I mean, we didn't dress super immodest. I always had tasteful clothing, um, but it was very much like the line of thinking of, oh, well, I'm not wearing that, or, my outfit isn't as bad as her outfit, which is,
Mhm.
first of all, not a good line of thinking. That's just very
Mhm.
judgmental and
Mhm.
comparative. It's just not not good. But also the fact that I was still wearing immodest clothing, you know, and but it wasn't like just our family. That basically goes for the whole Novus Ordo. You can there's no uh, hard and fast rule of okay, this is what you should wear and this is what you shouldn't wear. And I know like even in like the traditional circles, like it can be kind of a hot topic, like whether or not women should wear pants or,
Right.
those different things. But um, just from my experience, um, it has been completely transformative now dressing modestly and trying to have that Mary like modesty is the biggest thing. And kind of the funny story that goes along with that is because I grew up Novus Ordo, um, and there was a lot that kind of was going on in our lives when we made that decision. Like we got married right away, we got pregnant right away with our first son, we bought a house, my husband got a new job. Like it was a lot all at once. Um, and it wasn't until a year later, after we became traditional, where my husband showed me this letter that Pope Pius XI wrote on Mary like modesty. And he's like, here, you should read this. And I read it. And it was one of those things where it was like God kind of calling me out, like, hey,
Like,
you
you
need to
should
fix
read this.
this.
Right. It's funny
Right.
when it happens like that. It's like you don't even
Hmm.
want to go there, but then it's like,
Yeah.
bam, like this is
Hmm.
what you need. And it
Hmm.
comes from someone else. I feel like that helps too sometimes because it's just like
Hmm.
you maybe wouldn't have gotten there on your own, you know? So that's
Exactly.
awesome.
Exactly. Exactly. So I definitely, I can't say it was immediate, like, oh, I read that, like, boop, making the change. I really wrestled with it for probably about like a month or so before I ended up making the switch over to wearing only dresses and skirts. And really, the goal is marry like modesty. Am I
Mhm.
perfect all the time? No, but that's the goal. And it has been so transformative in such a positive way. And I really feel like that has kind of been the just segue into embracing traditional Catholic homemaking and really seeing the fruits of God's grace working in my life and in my family's lives. Um, so, yeah, it's been a
That's amazing.
beautiful thing.
Yeah, I for myself, I know how much better I feel and how much more I even accomplish when I'm dressed
Mm-hmm,
well. And I think it's mental and it's also like spiritual because
mm-hmm,
when you feel better, you do more. And when you want to feel better, I feel like sometimes all it takes is just putting on a nice dress or doing your makeup or hair. I mean, that's kind of different,
mm-hmm,
but it's really a mental shift. It gets you out of
mm-hmm,
just sitting on the couch and not doing anything. Cause I know like when
mm-hmm.
I dress like a slob, I act like a slob. And I think
Yeah.
there's a lot of relation to that. So
Hmm.
so that's really great. So
Yeah. No,
you're
absolutely.
you're pretty passionate about homemaking. Like I've heard you kind of talk about it and that's really great. Did you kind of have that passion like before you were married with kids or has it just kind of come with having kids?
Yeah. So homemaking, funnily enough, has something that I have always tended to. So even as a high schooler, I can remember, being at my parents' house and my mom's friends would come over and I would be doing the dishes after making some brownies or something for them for their little get together. And they would always joke and call me Cinderella because whenever they would come over, I would be doing some
Nice.
chore or
It
something.
reminds me of my
But
sister. She's very, very
yeah,
similar. That's
yeah.
funny.
But I don't know what it was. I think, I guess the Lord just gave me this love of homemaking and these things. And I truly enjoy it. And yeah, just being able to serve others through the things that I'm talented in, like cooking and cleaning. It's yeah, it's just been a real treasure. And I think another, um, yeah, sorry, lost my train of thought.
Oh, you're good.
Homemaking.
Yeah, right. But no, it's
No, dude.
very amazing when you can really look at it like it's your vocation because
Mm-hmm,
it took me a long time to get to that point because
mm-hmm,
honestly it was kind of more of a chore for a long time for me like dishes and cooking and
mm-hmm,
cleaning and I just thought of it as like oh like here we go we have to do this but when you actually embrace it and like this is the
mm-hmm,
job that God gave me and like
mm-hmm,
doing this well is how I serve God the best.
mm-hmm.
It's a total shift and I mean I'm not going to lie I still dread some of the homemaking stuff, but it's easier when you have that in the back of your mind like okay, this is my job, this is what I'm giving back. So,
Absolutely, absolutely. Um, yeah, that has also been, I think, for me too, like recently, just realizing that, all of these little daily tasks I can offer up, as sacrifices for our Lord. Um, it has been, yeah, really fruitful. And even just, taking all of the different frustrations and things within the homemaking tasks, um, and, either offering up or, just saying a quick Hail Mary in the moments of frustration. Um, those have been really helpful as well.
Right.
Um, just being able to see kind of more fruit and growth.
Right. No, that's very true. Yeah, I think it's amazing how, like you said too, you can just really serve others, and like that's our purpose as well, to care
Mm-hmm.
for our kids and our husband. And yeah, it can be a real struggle at times, but it's like when you can really fulfill that, it's special. So
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to ask you, do you have any like tips or advice for kind of like general homemaking, or kind of some stuff that you do to help you enjoy it or just get the most out of it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So one of the things that I particularly love is trying to incorporate our faith in our home throughout the day. Um, so I try to do morning prayer. Usually, it's either it really just varies on the morning. It's either by myself or with the children. It just depends. So trying to do morning prayer, and something that I've recently started doing is the Angelus, which I hadn't been doing before. I've done it kind of in and out through life, like even as a Novus Ordo, I would do it in and out. Um, but just recently, I started doing it again, and now our 2.5-year-old is kind of right at that age where he's kind of starting to grasp things, and he's starting to learn his prayers. And it's been really beautiful to see how he's responding to that. Because he'll, come into the room where we say our prayers, and he'll like try to genuflect, and so it's really been cute to see his growth just with that. And yeah, so trying to incorporate just prayers throughout the day. And then also just for me, well, I don't know, I might say for everyone, is how we decorate our houses and adorn our
Right.
houses,
Right.
with sacred art and crucifixes and statues. So we're constantly reminded to pray and to offer up our sufferings and our tasks to our Lord. I particularly love to find old pictures thrifting.
Oh,
So
I
different
love
antique
thrifting.
ones.
I found some amazing stuff too. It's incredible.
Mm-hmm.
Like I found I probably a 5 foot high painting, and it was a Raphael, a really beautiful, one of the famous ones with the little angels. And it was ten
Mm-hmm.
dollars, and it's in my
Wow.
bedroom, and I was like,
Oh,
how on earth did someone give that up?
mm-hmm.
But then also,
Yeah.
how is it $10? So yeah,
Mm-hmm.
that's so cool when you can find that.
Oh, I know. It's just my favorite. And then yeah, there's just kind of that excitement of like, oh, and wondering like, oh, I wonder what, you know, this, especially like the old pieces. Like we have this, I found this one, it's a print of the Sacred Heart. I actually have it over here. I think it's from like 18 something, and it has a prayer from the enthronement right on the bottom.
Oh, wow.
And it's just cool to imagine, like, okay, was this the picture that was used for the enthronement for someone's home, back
Right,
in the day?
right.
And so it's just cool to think about. Um, but yeah, no, so incorporating the faith to our daily lives and our homes, I think is just a really great tip. That way you're constantly thinking of
Mhm.
our Lord and our Lady, and not other worldly things that we often get distracted by. One thing that I haven't done yet, but that I want to do is put a little crucifix right on my windowsill in my stove, so that way when I'm washing the dishes and cooking dinners and things, that I can be looking at the crucifix and be reminded of our Lord. So that's one tip that I would give to people that I haven't done myself, but I would encourage you all
It's a good
to
tip.
do.
Right. That's awesome. I think one thing too I kind of try to do is like liturgical decorating, which is
Mm-hmm.
not, I mean, I
Mm-hmm.
pretty much have one area that's kind of my home altar, sort of, and I just decorate for feast days, and I do like a nativity set for Advent, or like just different, if that one of my kids has, their patron saint's feast day, then I'll do a picture and some candles and flowers. And it's just a cute little reminder of like, hey, like this is important. And, here's the saint that we're celebrating, or just different things. And I enjoy it because I like doing that stuff. So it's
Yeah,
kind of a
absolutely.
win-win. It's good for me, it's good for my kids, and it's fun.
Hmm. Yeah, and that's something that I have just started delving into. Definitely more so recently. I mean, we would always, decorate the house for, you know, Advent and then Christmas, like having that differentiation, which Novus Ordo people do not do. It's
Right,
just
right.
Christmas
Everything's
all the time.
Christmas, exactly. Right after
Right,
Thanksgiving, if you even make it
right.
that far.
Exactly, exactly. Crazy. But yeah, so decorating and trying to really have our home run to the seasons of the church. So one example that I did, I think I did it last year as well, but I definitely did it this year, is for Passion Tide, covering up all of the crucifixes and
Oh, that's
statues and images.
that's awesome.
And I've seen different things and examples of it online. I think, yeah, the first year that I did it, I had just some purple like tools that I got from Hobby Lobby. But this year I've gone thrifting and I have more images, so I didn't have enough. And I saw, I forget who, someone online suggested using uh, just like fabric napkins to cover your images.
Oh, nice.
So I was able, we have just kind of like a tan colored napkins for dinner, and I was able to just like wrap everything in that. So that was nice. So that way, yeah, there's a clear distinction. Passion Tide, the house is very simple.
Right.
All the images are covered. And then for Easter, I did a really big thing. Obviously took all of the coverings off, and we have a mantle. It's kind of like our prayer area where we have our crucifix and our statues of Our Lady, and um, so it really kind of like dulled it out, fresh flowers and lights and candles and everything, so that you had that clear distinction of like really bare for Passion Tide and Holy Week, and then the really beautiful man. And the way we have it is, it's right when you walk in our door is the mantle is right
Oh, that's
there,
that's great. That's perfect.
right? Which is, yeah, it's so great that we have it set up that way. Um, so yeah, liturgical living, and yeah, same with the feast days too. That's something. My children are so young, so I haven't been able to do too much with that. This past year, for my son, his name's Anthony. He's named after Saint Anthony. We made an Italian dinner, and then we did a special Portuguese dessert. And then he's just so young, so we just did a coloring page,
Oh,
which,
that's
I
good
mean, he
though. They
he's
love
he's
those.
just only right. He's just only starting to understand, kind of like things like that. So, did he really know what the day was? Probably not. But he went around all day saying feast day, feast day, feast day,
Oh,
which was
that's
just really cute.
sweet. Right. Well, and
Yeah.
it's special. And I feel like it makes
Hmm.
them like really love their, special saint. And it's
Right.
it's actually cool. We got married on the Feast of Saint Anthony. And
Oh
he was
wow.
my husband's special patron saint and his confirmation saint. So we have been able to do like the lilies. So bring lilies in and get them blessed. And then we have a whole bunch of lilies in our front yard, and they're all blessed,
Mm-hmm.
and it's neat, and it's a very special feast day to us. So it's awesome when you can do stuff like that, like the Italian dinner and the
Mm-hmm.
the coloring pages. And yeah, I think it really makes the faith come to life, which I love.
Yeah.
um
Did
you know what?
oh, sorry, sorry.
I'm so sorry. I just realized we have like 1 minute because I think I might have signed into the wrong Zoom. I
Oh
should have
no.
done the other Zoom account because I have unlimited time, but this one I think might go like half an hour. But are you
Oh,
are
that's
you
okay.
willing to do like a part two, and we could kind of end our conversation and just end this one now, and then we'll come back and do like a part two. Is that all right with you?
Yeah, that sounds great.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much. I really enjoyed it, and it was great talking to you. And yeah, we will definitely finish this conversation. And yeah, I hope that you have a great night, and I really appreciate that you came on.
Thanks.
Thanks. Bye. I'll talk to you later.
Bye.
Thank you.